The Pinkertons, Chapter 12. The projectiles being hurled down at the children and at the guinea pigs turned out to be thickly cut sandwiches. These were being aimed at the children below, not in hostility and not as an aggressive act, but as their lunch. But as the lyrics of the famous Scottish song correctly predicted, the chances of the pieces reaching the ground without being in pieces were minimal. 99 to 1, I think the song has the odds at. If you have ever lived in Scotland, then you know exactly what I am talking about, as you probably learnt this song at school. But if you don't know it, then you might want to look up the song and have a listen. It is about people being rehoused in high-rise flats and the ensuing difficulty in handing your children food through the windows from such a height. I should also perhaps point out, for those who don't know, that the term for a sandwich in Scots is a piece. Well, the sandwiches continued to fall from the sky. All the children were, by now, jumping up and down excitedly, each trying to catch a bit of bread here, a piece of jelly there, or a bit of cheese. They were quite good-natured about this, and whilst they were competitive in the sport, each trying to catch as much as he or she could, once the food had been secured, it was shared out between them all. However, the fact that the children evidently regarded all this as some kind of daily enjoyable ritual did not make things any easier for the guinea pigs. With the children jumping around all over the place, the guinea pigs were in very real danger of being accidentally trodden on. Each one of the 6 was on high alert, trying to anticipate where each jumping child might land next, so as to be able to scamper out of the way. And there were a few near misses. At one point, Percival Pinkerton had a very fortunate escape. He only just popcorned out of the way in time as a strapping lad of about 13 narrowly missed him with his size 9 booted feet. Patty didn't know what to do. She felt responsible for her family, as she often did. Although she was the youngest guinea pig there, she was the one with the brains, of course. She would have to think of something, and quickly. But it was very difficult to plan strategies at the same time as having to concentrate on avoiding being trampled. All the guinea pigs were getting tired. Patty wasn't sure how much longer any of them would be able to keep this up. Neither the rain shower of sandwiches nor the stampede of the children seemed to be showing any sign of abating. Although no one was taking any notice of it, the radio was continuing to play. The radio set had so far escaped being trampled on. I am not quite sure how. And clearly it had not quite run out of juice yet either. The same radio show was continuing. I have been speaking to my castaway, George Bluffer Humble, businessman, entrepreneur, author and motivational speaker, about his fascinating life and career. Next week our guest will be the picture-framing magnate and French cuisine enthusiast, Monsieur Hector Floret, and I shall be asking him how he would cope on a desert island, bereft of all his favourite Parisian restaurants. But for now, this week's castaway has one more record choice to make. So, George, what will it be? Last record. Oh, there's no question in my mind over that. It'll have to be Home Sweet Home. As if by magic, which of course it was, as the music of Home Sweet Home began to play, the guinea pigs found themselves, for one last time, lifted up in the air. As the sweet tune of Home Sweet Home played out from the clockwork radio, the guinea pigs' adventure began to draw to a close. The Silkies found themselves back in their garden, and our guinea pig family, the Pinkertons, were also returned safely home. And they were all exceedingly pleased to be back. back to the quiet village of Haypepper, where nothing much ever happens, except for when it does. Now, I imagine that you may have a few questions, but I have to warn you that if you were going to ask me about the magic, then I don't think I have any more to tell. And if you were going to ask me about the Pinkertons' rule, then I'm afraid I don't have much to tell on that front either. Did they keep the ban on music with words once they got home, or did they abandon that rule? I simply don't know. What do you think? What would have happened if this whole adventure had happened to your family? How might it have affected your home life once you got back? On some other points, however, I hope that I may be able to satisfy your curiosity. Oliver the Newt, you will be pleased to hear, was none the worse for wear despite his adventures. And Mr. and Mrs. Silky's dahlia had also survived being untended and unexamined for the short time in which Sylvia had been away. In fact, another bud had opened in her absence. Sometimes it happens like that. Patty Pinkerton did eventually get to have some supper. And Percival, despite not having been lacking in snacks throughout the day, professed himself hungry too, and managed 3 helpings. On one point, you might know more than me. I can't actually remember what happened to Patty's bouquet surprise. Did it get lost? Has it already been eaten? Did we ever find out? Well, anyway, we can safely assume that if it hadn't been eaten already, then Patty would have eaten it that night as her pudding, before snuggling up in the hay and falling straight away into a deep and dreamless sleep. In case you were wondering, Percival did still manage to fit into his zone that night, but I think it may not be long now before he needs to find a larger one. Oliver thinks so too. Claude and Cynthia remain much the same as ever, proud and happy parents enjoying village life. Claude still makes jewellery. Cynthia continues to tend her vegetable plot. This year she is planning to plant even more than usual, although if Percival continues to help her in the garden, then I think that Cynthia's increased planting will make little difference to her expenditure at the vegetable stall on market days. Anne and Hector Fleurette remain happy in France, and their factory continues to flourish. Hector's starring moment as a castaway on desert island discs was well received, much more so than George's, and as a result, the Fleurette's factory is busier than ever with commissions. Sylvia continues to grow flowers, and Sam Silky continues to spend much of his time thinking about and opining on gnawing noseball. He gives his views on this topic most readily to anyone who will listen. He even had a bright idea as to how the Haypepper Harriers could improve their chances. He suggested a new player for the team, Percival Pinkerton. Now, you might think that this was an odd suggestion, given Percival's extreme clumsiness, but actually it was a brainwave on the part of Sam, for Percival was brilliant at gnawing. So all that the team captain needed to do was to lead Percival to the end of the field where the piles of twigs were, and leave him to get on with it. Percival's performance almost invariably guaranteed a win for the Harriers every time, just so long as the captain remembered to show Percival the correct pile, the pile the Harriers were supposed to gnaw, and not those put there for the opposition team. Percival's sudden and unexpected success as a sportsman has really boosted his confidence. Oliver says he is a different guinea pig these days. The only other thing that the team captain needs to watch out for is that Percival never comes midfield and is kept away from the ball at all times. For although the twigs are supposed to be gnawed, that is part of the game, chewing on the rattan ball is strictly forbidden. In fact, this constitutes an offence, whereby the other team would be automatically given a penalty. But I think there may be one more question that you might be asking. What about Simi Chai and Mimi Mihaela? What happened to them? Well, in fact, that is all rather interesting. When the other 6 guinea pigs and Oliver were whisked away from their submarine, Simi and Mimi remained in theirs. I do not know why or how that happened. Sometimes magic is a bit of a mystery to me too. Simi and Mimi rather liked the submarine. In fact, they treated the whole experience as if they were having a little holiday together. They found they worked well as a team, and once Simi had conquered his shyness towards Mimi, they found that they had plenty to talk about too. They also got rather good at submarine piloting, if that is the correct word, and at navigation. Eventually, they came back up to the surface and returned to Haypepper. They even managed to find Miss Mihaela's tricycle, which she had feared might be lost forever. As far as I know, Miss Clover and Miss Star didn't mind too much about Simi's long absence. He got to keep his job. And Mimi Mihaela's confectionery business goes from strength to strength. Their time together on the submarine solidified the friendship between them. The two of them meet up often for lunch, for cups of tea, and to go for tricycling rides together. For now Simi has a tricycle too, although his is green and red to match his dungarees and his hat. I even think it is possible that Simi and Mimi might just announce their engagement soon. And Haypepper itself continues on, much the same as ever. The school children are still writing odes to hay, and market day is still on a Thursday. But do you know to whom my thoughts are always returning, dear reader? My thoughts always come back to Miss Clover and Miss Star. I wonder about them. I really do. For they were good and they were kind and they were friendly. But was there more to them than met the eye? Those 2 little old lady guinea pigs. Sometimes at night I lie awake and wonder. I wonder whether perhaps they knew more than they ever let on. Is it possible that all along it was them who were truly magical?